do a report for the upcoming week. So I just kind of want to, for context, I want to highlight that this whole cycle, as far as the lunar moon cycle, started back around on September 6th, and it was a Virgo new moon. And at the time of this new moon, it was conjunct Mars in Virgo. So a lot of the energy that set the tone for what we've been going through has to do with purification and sort of, filtering out, weeding out that which is unnecessary, and coming into our true values, as we'll see with this report. What really, what we really value and what really counts. That's Venus and Scorpio. At the time of that new moon, it was making a trine to Uranus, so it also kind of opened the doors and opened the way for revelation and deeper insight into, how we need to move forward. So jumping right into this current report, so we're still in the Mayan 13-day period of Eagle, and that lasts until October 2nd. Basically, the moon is in its, it's in its final phase. It's winding down to a dark moon, and then that new moon happens on October 6th. So these energies are culminating, and it's coming to a culmination point, as we'll see, because we're basically coming into the final 13-day period. This next 13-day period in the Mayan calendar will be the final 13-day period of this 260-day Tzolk'in cycle, and I'll talk more about that in the next report. So I guess I'll just start with the simplicity of, on the 22nd, the sun went into Libra, marking the period of the fall autumn equinox, and it's basically a marker on the path. It's a transitional point and has to do with becoming. It's a time of harvest and bringing what we've gathered together. As I said, that previous new moon was all about getting rid of what we don't need, and so going through a period of purging and letting go. And now it's come to the point where it's sort of it's harvest time. It's kind of like the fruit has ripened, or the plant has come to the point where it's given us fruit, and so that fruit is what's going to carry us forward. And it's a transitional point that marks the idea of rising above lack consciousness, moving out of a consciousness that is centered around the idea of lack. I always think back. I remember when I was growing up as a little kid, my parents were, on my father's side, they were full-blooded Italians, and when we would visit them, it was kind of like, if we didn't eat our entire dinner or whatever we put on our plate, we didn't get dessert, and then it also went into the fridge, and we had to eat it for breakfast. And it was kind of like, to a kid, I mean, as a grown-up, no big deal, but to a kid, that's kind of like, oh my God, I don't get, dessert, and I have to eat freaking lasagna for breakfast or whatever. So, it's kind of like looking at that, having some distance and looking at that, it was obvious that they came from an era which was the Depression era, those the 30s and the 40s, and where they wasted absolutely nothing. I'm going on a tangent here, but what the hell? So that created a consciousness of preservation. But as time goes on, such strict preservation may not be necessary, and it turns into this is a simple example of lack consciousness. And so it's the idea of getting out of lack consciousness. I'm not promoting waste things, waste food. I think very much that we need to find better systems and solutions to not waste all kinds of resources, foods, medicines, water, and so forth. And so, finding new ways to distribute those things. So as I said, I'm going off on a tangent here, but this sun going into Libra is a marker for being more conscious and moving out of lack consciousness and moving into conscious gratitude, being more conscious of gratitude of, I guess, essentially what you have. And what you have is maybe all that you need, you know, for the present moment, and not getting sucked into, you know, bare minimum like root chakra survival consciousness. And maybe we can highlight a little bit more of this, but it's basically a period where, you know, we've come to a point in the road where we can actually see the fruits of our development, of our inner revolutionary path that we've gained up to this point. You know, if you look 6 months back or at the beginning of springtime, what have you learned since then? What have you gone through? And what have you held as your own personal kind of like trophy or consciousness, or you know, what have you owned since then? You know, the challenges and trials and tribulations that you've gone through, and the fears that you've had to move through and let go of. So it's a kind of a time of taking a look at that. And now it's a time of review with this Mercury going retrograde. So it's also a time of the balance of light and darkness in our lives, as light and darkness exist as one. It's kind of one axis. One needs the other to exist. And so let's move into September 26th. Mercury goes retrograde at 25 degrees of Libra. And it makes a difficult aspect called a Thor's Hammer's aspect. Thor's Hammer, it's an aspect. And that happens basically at the time of the Mercury retrograde between Mercury in the 7th house. And I'm listing the houses as if I'm looking at the chart from Aries rising. So Mercury in the 7th house squaring Pluto in the 10th house, and then both are making a sesquiquadrate, which is a 135 degree aspect, or a 3/8 aspect to Lilith, which Black Moon Lilith, the Moon, and Ceres, all in Gemini. And that's the 3rd house as the point. So, you know, if we look at that difficult aspect, we're kind of looking at Black Moon Lilith having to do with those who are rejected, or the idea of repression or segregation or denial. So repression, segregation, and denial as symptoms of a false truth, a limited truth. You know, when we repress something, we're not in alignment with the whole truth of what is. When we segregate, we're not in alignment with the truth of what really is. When we deny, we're in denial of others that simply represent a part of ourselves somewhere inside that we've sort of rejected and pushed away, because there can be too much. It can be too much to face or deal with, or too much fear. You know, that's the aspect of like going into the darkness, going into the unknown, taking a look at what we really don't like to look at about ourselves and dealing with it. And in that sense, being vulnerable enough to admit it. You know, a lot of times when people move into that realm, it's kind of like they want to save face. They don't want to admit that there could be other perspectives, or that they could be wrong, or you know that you know, there's just that saving face. It's like too much pride. It's kind of the dark side, a darker side of Leo in a sense, and Aquarius as well. So you know, we have this Thor's Hammer's aspect, and like I said, Lilith, the Moon, and Ceres are the point of that aspect. So you know, with the Moon being in there, either repressed information or old information that is out of date, that people can be holding on to, which ultimately needs to be let go of in order to move forward. It's the idea of being self-imprisoned and limited and falling into, you know, traps of dogmatic viewpoints. So it's a theme that's kind of a theme that many people are students of right now as we're going through all this stuff in the world. You know, what is right, what is wrong. We're being tested, you know, with the Saturn, Jupiter, and Aquarius. We're being tested with how far have we come and what have we learned? What have we learned from the past? And can we take the lessons of the past and actually apply them to right now and make the right choices on how to go forward? Like, what is really, truly right? What is the right decisions to make moving forward, and how we treat ourselves and how we treat others, and how we find solutions to deep problems, not only on a personal level but on a collective level, on the level of society, on the level of the global community. So we're being tested, and right now it's just so crucial that we get in touch with our deeper values. That's that Venus and Scorpio, and really make decisions and judgments on what is, you know, really the true soul-centered perspective in order to move forward. You know, history has taught us what is truly right and wrong, and we can't just take the dark aspects of history and sort of transplant them onto modern scenarios and justify them. There should be enough room for us to take a step back and breathe and get a wider perspective and more context to sort of have a little space to be like, you know, are we making the right decisions? So, okay, that's a theme that people are dealing with right now. On the 23rd and the 24th, there's an esoteric chart. I'll kind of put it up here between quintiles and sesquiquintiles, and it basically makes a pyramid, or actually two pyramids, with Pluto as the point of both pyramids. So in one pyramid, as you can see, we have Pluto, Uranus, and Mars as the lower pyramid, or one dimension of that pyramid. And then we have Pluto, Venus, and Chiron as the higher dimension of that pyramid, or other dimension of that pyramid. So, you know, this makes me want to talk about patriarchy a little bit, because, you know, we have that Pluto and Capricorn, and Pluto and Capricorn, since it went into Capricorn, has been stirring up what we view as the patriarchy. And patriarchy, you know, the word itself has become a bit more of a trend in particular circles, or spirituality, or you know, awakening and so forth. So I want to touch on the idea that patriarchy, the patriarchy as well as the matriarchy, they are psycho-spiritual aspects that are alive within each one of us. They are not just something that happens in rich people or leaders out there, as in, like, you know, powerful leaders of governments. It's a symbol that actually lives within each one of us, matriarchy and patriarchy. And it's the idea that we don't want to necessarily hold it as 100% evil. It's just like with any department or any office or any particular aspect or organization of the world. All of them are sacred, but any of them can be distorted. Any of them can be what is it? Changed to the dark side. You know, we think of Star Wars and Darth Vader. It's just kind of like any of them can be pulled out of their soul nature and you know, crystallized, carbonized, solidified in the Saturnian dark side kind of nature, the corporate, airless, lifeless nature, soulless nature. And so, you know, I just kind of wanted to touch on this because, you know, it's the idea that they live in us as psycho-spiritual dynamics, and they're simply necessary states of being that we have for ourselves. It's kind of like, you know, the left and right half of the brain, or the left and the right hand. They're necessary. and it's part of a duality axis. And since Pluto went into Capricorn, it has to do with the rule of the father. And especially since the Pluto-Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which happened in 2020, which triggered all this stuff, it basically, that conjunction opened up a portal of darkness in the sector of the father, or the masculine, or the patriarchy. And it opened up those doors, or the portal, to allow us to look at what already existed. So everything that's been happening since 2020, it's not that it's all just brand new, that it came out of nowhere. It's really that there was a lot of imbalance and distortion, and especially in the sector of the masculine and the father, those energies, the patriarchy. And everything that's happening is to show us where we are out of balance. It's only simply revealing that which already was, okay, if that makes sense. So it was already there, and it's revealing that which already was. It's showing each person what they were, where they were saving face, where they didn't want to look at the dark aspects of themselves. And what it's showing each person is the patriarchy within themselves. So every one of you have the patriarchy within yourself. If you think of whatever the patriarchy is, let's say you're one of those people that's always like, fuck the patriarchy, this and that. Well, take that thinking and that feeling, and now look at it and imagine it to be within yourself, because it's in there. I've seen a lot of people, especially even since 2016, that especially on social media, like putting it out there like, this is wrong, that's wrong, fuck this person, fuck that person. And it's kind of like simply expressing fuck this person or fuck that person doesn't actually do anything. It may be a way for you to vent your emotions in the moment, but if you give it enough time and then you look back and you see what you were doing with that, you realize that you achieved nothing with that. At most, what you achieved was the avoiding of actually dealing with your own inner patriarchy. Where do you try to act out and project yourself as an authority onto other people? Where do you try to tell other people what's right and wrong and what to do? Or where do you try, where are you a tyrant? And where do you try to force other people to do what they don't want to do? How do you try to dominate and control? Where do you actually reject the feminine aspects? And when I say feminine aspects of life, I don't just mean women, although that is extremely important, and we're dealing with that right now. But what I also mean is, like, where do you actually reject your intuition and intuitive, artistic approaches to things? Where do you very strongly just associate with the left brain, the rational, the linear, the logic, which is all masculine patriarchal attributes? And where do you deny anything that is not logical, linear, or rational? So anyway, I'm going off on a wild tangent here. This could have been a shorter topic, but I just really want to point out that the patriarchy lives in every person. And until each person learns how to deal with their own patriarchy, we're not going to see it, transform on a collective or a global scale. The inner revolution starts with each one of us inwardly. You have to work on your own shit before you can take care of somebody else. You have to work on your own darkness before you can transform the darkness out there. So, I just wanted to touch on that. Pluto is still in Capricorn until March 2023. Like I said, right now, it's just really important that we really get in touch with our inner selves and we work on this inner landscape. You know what I mean? Patriarchy, the idea of patriarchy is that it will evolve into a higher and more balanced form. It's not about completely just like cutting the throat of patriarchy, which is essentially an idea. I mean, it reminds me of the idea associated with like black metal and the black metal community. And I don't care if you're for the black metal community or against or whatever. I personally like some black metal music and some I don't, but that's not the point. What the point is I've thought about this before, the long-standing history of revolting against the church. Okay, and within the ideas of this community or that particular kind of music, there's the idea of burning churches down. Sure, that's great. You know, the rebellious part of me, or the Uranian part of me, can be like, yeah, that's great, burn churches down. You know, be a rebel. You know, fuck the churches, fuck the patriarchy. I'm really cursing a lot in this video, so. But you know, the idea with that is that, you know, you cannot get rid of an idea, and that's what's embedded within the realm of the church, or, you know, this is a deep topic and I'm going on a super tangent, but I mean, like, you cannot get rid of an idea by burning the physical structure which contains it, because it's an idea. You'll never defeat it. Your rebellion is in vain. So, you know, you cannot, you know, for instance, if you were mad at the government and you tried to burn down one of their buildings, you will not change the idea. You will not transform the negative aspects of government by doing that. You're just burning down a physical object. You know, you can't, well, okay, you get the idea, but it's just, ideas have to be transformed. Ideas have to be cleansed. Ideas have to basically take a shower. And, you know, you have to be the water in a sense. You know, fire, that's the symbolism of it, is that fire is a symbol of purification. But, you know, you can't, it just doesn't work that way. So anyway, I'll get rid of the tangent. I'm sorry. I took you way far away from astrology there. But it's the idea that when we transform patriarchy, it's going to not be an elimination of patriarchy. That would do us no better than the elimination of the matriarchy. It's going to be a synthesis of the matriarchy and the patriarchy, and the coming into the balance of the two, a more harmonious, a more beautiful balance between the two, where the core principles of both are actually like fully honored and not rejected. So moving on the 26th, we have the Mayan day 7 alligator. This is the same day as Mercury goes retrograde, and Mercury goes retrograde at 25 degrees of Libra, and then it goes direct on October 18th at 10 degrees of Libra. So that's basically 2 days after the start of a brand new 260-day Zolkin period. So this period of this Mercury retrograde is all about a final intense review. Like I said in the beginning, like, what are our values? You know, it's Mercury retrograding in Libra. What are our values? Where are we getting stuck in indecision? Where are we afraid to really take action? That's Aries, opposite of Libra. And, you know, what are those core principles and values that we really need to align with before we really make some bad decisions in the world? And some horrible things happen. We want to align so that we're in the process of creating a new Earth, a new world. And through all the stuff we're going through, we're being confronted with the dark aspects of ourselves that we reject. So we have to face those things in order to come into a place where we can make the best decisions possible that have the welfare of the all, the many, and not just one group or another group, okay? We've seen so much of that already. So this is the idea of how can we find solutions for all? You know, it's not about killing the rich, it's about making everybody rich. It's not about siding with one particular side, it's about, you know, what are all sides saying, and how can we take the truth from all sides and put them together and create the best result possible, right? So Well, today's a day of tangents. So, you know, this Mercury retrograde is really about reflection, and a lot of it can have to do with reflecting on territorial issues. You know, the 7th day of this Mayan 13-day period of eagle we're in is alligator. It can have to do with, you know, an element of nurturing, but can also have to do with territory and being territorial. Just quick note, and I'll probably come back to this some other time, but the President of the United States Mayan birth sign is to alligator. And the ironic thing is that the Mayan birth sign of Kamala Harris is also to alligator. It's really the odds of them having the same Mayan sign is basically, you know, what is that? I mean, there's 260 signs. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, we have somebody in office as a leader that can have to do with being very territorial. And, you know, it's like when people try to engage in staking new territory, that can cause conflict. You know, and we have a lot the energies of Libra right now. Libra can be a very warlike energy. We had the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in an air sign for the first time in 200 years, and it'll keep conjuncting in air signs for the next 200 years. So we have to put ourselves in check, you know, with who do we elect to lead the way in the world, and are those people that are going to have enough personal power to properly deal with engagements. That's Libra, you know, engagements, its relationship, in a proper way that don't lead us into further wars. We can talk more about that stuff. That's just another tangent. So this 13-day period of Mercury can have to do with retracing our steps, you know, retracking our steps, going back, seeing where we've kind of transited, where we've moved through, and, you know, have we taken the right steps? Do we need to kind of go back and look at our options on different ways to go? So when Mercury goes direct at 10 degrees Libra, it's going to be conjunct the fixed star of Vinda Beatrix as well as Porima. So this brings up ideas of the Empress card. You know, I'll touch more on this in the next report when we're talking about the Mayan 13-day period of Rabbit, but it brings up the energy of youth. So right now, like, as we go through this, the last part of this Zolkin cycle, as well as this Mercury retrograde, like I said, it's an intense final review. And we got to really make important decisions that are really soul-centered, because when the new 13-day period starts and then ends, we're going to start a whole new 260-day cycle, which basically has to do with the energy of youth, starting again, refreshment, rejuvenation. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that in the next report. Right now is a really important time to, I would say, meditate. If you're not familiar with meditating, find different kinds of meditation and try a few out. But the important thing is that you find a meditation that just kind of naturally feels good to you from beginning to end, and then afterward you notice a result. And, you know, from there on, don't pick like 5 different meditations and try 5 different meditations throughout the week. Just pick one meditation and try it over and over again for a couple months, and help it, you know, or allow it to help you relax and come into a place of peace where it helps you change to make new decisions that you wouldn't make before, because you were either rushed to do so, or you were in a panic mode, or in a fear mode, or in a survival mode, and so forth. I'll move on. So Mercury is opposite its own esoteric rulership in Aries. So Mercury is the higher esoteric ruler of Aries. Traditionally, it's Mars. So as Mercury filters through Libra, it's making an opposition to its sign, which it esoterically rules. So it's creating more of a three-dimensional aspect and a relationship aspect. What we're trying to do is bring the higher attributes of the mind into the area of relationship and how we deal with others. Right now is a huge review with that Mercury retrograde on how we deal with others. So Mercury is going to be filtering through Libra, and so that means Mercury is going to filter through Venus as the personality ruler of Libra, and it's going to be filtering through Uranus as the esoteric ruler of Libra. So on a deeper or higher mind kind of level, that's going to mean that we're going to be reviewing the higher aspects of awakening and shock. You know, what do we do with new alien information that we're not used to, and how do we apply it to our higher mind instead of getting stuck in the lower mind? Wow, that was crazy. This bird just swooped through, and it was extremely vocal. You know, how do we train ourselves to work with the higher mind and awaken ourselves to new perspectives, kind of a lot of that stuff I was talking about in the beginning, and not get stuck in the lower mind. Now, with the Venus personality aspect, she's the personality ruler of Libra. It's how can we translate, once we get a hold of these higher aspects of mind, these higher ideas, and what's really valuable is that Venus, you know, what are these true values, and how do we express them outwardly? How do we synthesize all the tension and the duality going on into a result that is beautiful? So, you know, a lot of people right now with with Uranus and Taurus are waking up to their body. A lot of people, you know, they're perfecting and sculpting their body because that's what they know how to do. Maybe you are, with that Uranus and Taurus, maybe you are awakening to the arts. Maybe you're learning a new art, a new instrument. Maybe you're taking up painting again or something. So it's taking that and creating an actual physical relic or object, a tangible object that is beautiful. Maybe you're a person that is just good at bringing people together. That's your art, is bringing people together and organizing them in a very intelligent and beautiful way so that you can create a larger result, whether that's a company, whether it's a non-profit to help change the world, or to, you know, stand in your core values to confront values that are distorted and, you know, wicked and old world, you know, that are out of date. So, you know, there's all different kinds of ways that you can create beautiful expressions with this energy. You know, with this Mercury retrograde, it's a very highly psychic time. It's a time that we can connect with kind of like aha moments. That we just kind of know certain, you know, we can just kind of have that, you know, something without knowing how you know it kind of experience. And, you know, those can definitely happen, especially with relationships. So moving on, you know, I wanted to highlight that in a meditation I did, I got the idea or the phrase, or, you know, I saw the phrase of the energies that are coming right now. I want to make sure I say this word right. The energies that are coming in right now are very ubiquitous. You know, they're all encompassing, you know, and, you know, that's another tangent that I could go on, but it's like, what do people do when they're getting blasted with the all-encompassing, omnipresent energy? Well, a lot of people will just try to hold on to the energies that they're familiar and comfortable with. Well, the idea here is to, hold on to what you're comfortable with. Sure, that's great, but allow yourself to open up to some of the other energies, and, learn new modalities, explore new things that you've never explored, learn something that you've never learned before. That's that North Node finishing up in Gemini, open yourself up to new information. Don't get stuck in the old belief systems that you're used to. So September 22nd to 27th, right as Mercury goes retrograde, there is an aspect of quintiles and biquintiles. And I'm just going to refer to this as the fire of Ritam. And Ritam is truth. Ritam means divine truth or balance or the right or divine work or the right or divine dharma in the world that you're bringing into the world. So we have Mercury in Libra as the point, and then we have Neptune in Pisces and the North Node in Gemini. And these are kind of like, it's a geometry that's boxed in between the nodes, Neptune and then Vulcan and Virgo. So this esoteric aspect of quintiles and biquintiles, I see it as having to do with extreme and powerful change. So this, Mercury retrograde and some of the other aspects going on are going to push us into extreme change. We talked about, the ego wants to save face, and this is a time where, people need to be pushed beyond the point where, it's time to let go of holding on to archaic beliefs that are outdated. Let go of the ego that wants to hold on to basically being right. It's not always about being right. It's a time to look at these deeper values, and this is a time when that can and will happen, and people are waking up and seeing what really is right and what is wrong, and having to deal with that in themselves depending on how they hold on to particular viewpoints. So it's extreme change in thinking and viewpoints, and then later Mercury returns through Libra and reunites with that 25-degree Libra point, triggering this fire of truth again on November 2nd and November 3rd. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. Later on, it's triggered by the Sun and Mars. This comes before that. So we're going to see this trigger again by the Sun and by Mars on October 19th till the 27th. So October 19th to the 27th, we're going to see some real very strong, potent Mars energy moving in to express this fire of truth, this fire of the deepest soul-centered values that we can find, and the elimination and purification of distorted forms that people can be holding on to. So it's all about reviewing and remembering the higher mind and truth. On the 28th, the Mayan day 9 house, and then the moon moves into Cancer. I can see that being as a very inward day on the 28th. That's a good day to do some of your meditations and your magic around envisioning what you want to create. On the 29th, Venus in Scorpio makes a trine to Neptune in Pisces, so that's kind of a resolution point from that previous new moon that I talked about, that we had, that set all this energy. She's, once again, create something new, take up a new form that you can get into, a new art. Maybe it's just a good time to dance. I don't know. Just kind of let go. It's a good time to laugh, to learn to laugh, and because through laughter we can discover the absurdity of much of life, the ridiculous of many things in life. So practice laughing. On the 29th, we also have the Sun in Libra trine Saturn. So, that's going to help us powerfully solidify new points of view. On the 30th, Venus in Scorpio is making a square to Jupiter. So I see, on the 29th, big headlines or things, something in the news being really huge around the 30th, the 29th and the 30th with that Venus square Jupiter. You know, something will be found, or something will be found out. Something will come to light in a really big way. And also in a deep and dark way with that Venus in Scorpio. And then on August 1st, Mars opposite Chiron. I might talk about that a little more in the next report. I think I kind of already did talk about it in a lot of ways. You know, it's like our masculine energy, that patriarchal energy, and like actually confronting it, and, you know, looking at the wounds that are involved with it psychologically and spiritually. And then August 2nd, Venus makes a sextile to Pluto. I'll probably talk about that more in the next report. So anyway, much love to you. Please take the time to like the channel, subscribe, notifications, all that. If you're interested in any kind of astrological reading, you can email me at the email that I have posted to the YouTube channel. I'll post it up on the screen. So yeah, if you're interested in a reading or anything like that, whether it's a birth chart reading or transit reading or anything of that nature, go ahead and email me. And yeah, look forward to the next report. Have a good one. Bye-bye.